We opened the fridge for giggles, and
The fridge is empty.
the fridge is empty. Yeah. I really imagine.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sisterhood Unscripted. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're so excited for today's podcast episode. We're going to be talking about all things finances, our past, present, and future. So before we jump into it, we're going to play a this or that question game, financial edition. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't look.
Okay.
Okay, budgeting apps or pen and paper?
I'm gonna say pen and paper, but I also do like Excel sheet, just not budgeting apps.
Usually when it comes to budgeting, I like do it in my notes app. So I don't know if that's kind of the same, but yeah, I think maybe pen and paper is what I like best.
Yeah, I do pen and paper too.
Mm.
Okay. No debt, no credit history, or good credit with some debt?
Good credit with some debt.
Yeah, I was gonna
get
say
you
that.
some credit because in the U.S. you can't do anything without a credit score,
Right.
and make sure it's good.
Okay, what's
The
everyone's
joke is
credit
on
score?
you guys because I'm going to be rich, so I don't need a credit score.
What's everyone's credit score? Anyway.
Yours hasn't even started.
Mine is 7 figures.
Period. Period.
Okay. Oh, I feel like I know what you guys are going to say, but student loans or work through college, realistically?
Girl, you gotta work through college.
It's life or death, honestly. Like, that's miserable.
No, honestly, you go.
I don't know. I was talking to one of my friends, and she's writing a 16-page paper.
Dang.
So it's not gonna work for me. Like,
So
when do you
student loans?
sleep? When do you have a life? I'm gonna go ahead and take those student loans. Thank you. Help me out.
Yeah, I honestly shout out to people who work through college because y'all are the real ones.
I feel like though it's complicated. Sometimes you can work through college and still end up with loans. Like that's the
Right. Like
that's the struggle.
12 to 15 hour, like $12 to $15 an hour job is
Yeah.
not gonna like magically take away all of your loans.
Yeah. Especially if you don't have generational wealth helping you, you're paying for rent,
Yeah.
tuition, books,
Mm-hmm.
your food, your entertainment. If you want to have a social life, like
Yeah.
it's expensive out here.
Honestly, it feels like it would be smart to have a job, but just know that like it's not gonna cover everything.
Yeah. And if you don't want to like work during college, at least have an internship, please.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the last question. High risk, high reward investing or low risk, steady growth?
Dang.
I know, it's hard.
Ask that again.
High
Hi-
risk, high reward investing or low risk, steady growth?
It sucks because if it's a high risk, it could really hurt you, but you could get a really high reward.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess this kind of goes to show my level of financial literacy and experience with investing, and we can talk about that later. But honestly, it's so hard to know. It's so hard to know what the investing market is like because I haven't really dived into it that much, and nobody really openly educates you about investments and like what high risk looks like and what that means and how you can get back from it if it does hurt you. So I guess the safe answer is low risk and steady growth.
I'd have to say that too. I just would be too afraid of the risk.
Yeah.
What about you?
I would say that too. I mean, it also depends on how much money you have.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that people who have more money are more likely to take more risks. I don't know. Because you have a lot less to lose than
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't have a ton of money.
It's true.
And also, I think a scarcity versus abundant mindset plays into it.
It sure does.
And also, financial trauma plays into it. So these are all things we're going to get into, but that's our little game. So we're going to move on into talking about what finances look like for us growing up and the emotional toll that took on us and how that shaped us today and our financial literacy and all that stuff.
Yeah. And to start that off, in terms of like talking about our past and reflecting on it, I hear so many people say like, "Yeah, I grew up poor, but I didn't know I was poor. I didn't know I was poor until a certain point." And I'm just like, is it just me then? Like, because I knew we were poor. Like,
Yeah, I guess
That kind of similar to our first question, which is defining poor and what poverty looked like for us growing up.
yeah,
And I guess we all kind of have different experiences, but not too crazy different. So,
yeah.
you want to start?
I just remember when we first came to the U.S., like dad was the only one working, mom was a stay-at-home mom. We were going to school. We definitely got free and reduced lunch throughout our entire schooling. That's for sure. Um, but I remember the early days. Dad would give us allowance a lot more frequently, and it seemed like we were steady. We were not like rich or anything. We were still moving like every year. But then when I went to middle school, I think that's when I started to really tell, like, oh, dad doesn't have that much. Like, I can't ask for allowance now. I can't do extracurriculars because I can't pay for the uniform or for this and that. And also, with our parents being busy, getting rides to extracurriculars was a burden to them. So, also not wanting to, like, inconvenience them in that way, right? And so it's just like, I don't know, it was very apparent to me that we were poor. I knew.
Mhm.
You could tell because we could like be okay sometimes, and other times would have to rely on government assistance, food stamps, free reduced lunch, housing assistance for payments and all of that. So I don't know. All the way up until college or high school for me. I mean, I got a job at high school instead of doing extracurriculars because I was like, I need money.
So I don't know if you remember this, and I'm sure you've heard Dad talking about this, but when we first moved to the States, Dad had a really good job. And when we moved to the Midwest, I remember like he complained about moving for years
Yeah.
because he was never able to find as good a job as he did.
Yeah.
And I actually also very distinctly remember so when we first moved to the States, we lived in an apartment and we lived in the projects. I'm talking fear for your life projects. It was cops day in and day out.
Yeah.
But I remember distinctly us planning to move to a house. I remember mom and dad house hunting, and they were nice houses.
I
Like,
do not remember that.
and maybe it was because I spent more time with them because I was younger.
Yes.
You guys were in school and stuff.
Mhm.
But I remember like I would dream about living in those houses. They would show me what they looked like online. And I think it was part because of dad's good job, but also Section 8, you know. But also with that, with having Section 8, it meant living in the projects or living in areas that were not as privileged. And so, why were you laughing?
Because like for years, so our dad obviously has a really thick accent, and so for years I didn't know that it was Section 8. And like you just said it like how dad said like Section 8. Like it's not. It's like
I'm with you
it's
on
No,
that.
there's so many things.
I'm with you on
So
that.
I had no idea what they were saying either.
Yeah.
All I could have done was Section 8.
Yeah.
Like,
I honestly thought they were saying in Arabic. It's a
Same.
period. But no, it's not.
that is funny.
Anyway.
Yeah, anywho, in my experience, I didn't feel poor necessarily. I would say until about like I started to notice it in late middle school and then in high school because obviously you're trying to fit in and the clothes and the popular kids and you're trying to figure things out and create patterns, and you realize like, oh, they have money and I don't, and that's why I'm not friends with them, and oh, I don't want my friends to come over to my house. The real friends were the ones that came to my house.
Yeah.
If you came to my house in middle school or high school, we were locked in.
Yeah. So true. I avoided bringing my friends home too, honestly. Because I did one time, I brought my friends over for my birthday in middle school. And I don't remember if we just didn't go grocery shopping or something like that. But my cake was in the fridge. We opened the fridge. First of all, the cake fell. You guys, like, that is one of my saddest memories.
What's going on all these depressing moments. We've gotta stop. Like, it's gotta
It's
stop.
I'm not trying to be depressing. It's just reality.
Just speaking
our
Anyway, speak your truth, baby girl.
We open the fridge, my kid falls, and
The fridge is empty.
the fridge is empty. Yeah.
Oh.
Can
you imagine? All your
I literally was so embarrassed. And these were like my white friend, like whitey white friends.
Yeah,
Love
that would
them.
have did it for me.
So yeah, I just was like, never again.
Okay, wait.
But that goes to show how poor we were.
Yes, and honestly, we can laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny back then.
It was not funny.
But I want to know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
The 5th day of the month.
Period. Wait, actually, I don't know what it is. I thought
You're fake!
payday. It's payday.
No, sir?
Food stamp gets me.
That's when the refrigerator was that big.
One thing I remember when I was a lot younger, like maybe 6, 7, 5, is like
6, 7, 5.
I know that was a weird way to say it, but going food shopping with my mom. Oh yeah.
Especially when she had that food stamp.
No,
She'd be
yeah.
like, yeah, you can get that. Yeah, you can get that.
Yeah, and also our mom has surprisingly an abundance mindset, so we'd be like, "Can I have
Delusional
this?"
mindset.
She's delusional, and so I could have
Today's
just gotten
delusional.
anything. Yeah,
Today's Delulu, she had that.
yeah.
Anywho, so yeah, it's interesting because even though there would be times when our refrigerator wouldn't be full,
Mm-hmm.
I personally never remember not knowing where my next meal was gonna come from.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the meal would be a This is crazy, y'all. Sometimes it would be a sida, sometimes it would be ramen noodles.
But you always ate.
We always ate.
Also, asida is like literally,
Fufu.
it's like
Yeah.
the African equivalent to the Depression's water pie. Have you heard of the water pie?
No.
So water pie was something people made because of the Great Depression. No one had money.
Like flour and water.
Yeah, flour and water and some other
Mhm.
ingredients that, that's all they had to eat.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. So if we had nothing, we were putting together like little things.
Mhm.
And mom cooked, and so
Every day.
she would always make things for us.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like we were left for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Except, yeah.
my experience from the rest of the family will always, unfortunately, be different because we have such a big age gap.
Yeah.
But luckily, I don't remember feeling poor either. I'll be really honest. Like, when I was younger, I think I was always just so naive, and I was like, I have everything I need. Like, I didn't realize that eating ramen noodles was like not good nutritionally. I was like, okay, period, dinner. Like,
Mhm.
it never, came across my mind. I was never worried about, like, dad and mom complained about
All the
bills,
time.
but like,
Mm.
I don't know. I just thought every parent did that, like in Disney. And also, I would like get toys and stuff like that. Not all the time, but like, I also just thought that was normal that you don't get everything you want all the time.
Mm.
So I never felt crazy, you
Oh my
know.
gosh.
And also, yeah, even during high school, like when we lived in another state, like a few years ago, like everything was fine, especially since it was just me and dad.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah. That reminds me, one year when we were living on the East Coast, there was like a white family that like sponsored us for like Christmas gifts. Like, do you guys remember that?
Yes.
We got
Oh my
sponsored?
gosh.
We did.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do, because like getting gifts for Christmas was unheard of.
Mhm.
I also remember, I don't know if you were part of this, but our cousins, they knew where the welfare was.
Mm.
And I think it was like the Salvation Army or something. They put on like a
Mm.
Christmas for low-income families, and they gave you presents based on your age, and they were like wrapped and everything. And one year I went with Mo and them. It was presents galore, and I remember it so vividly, just as vividly as I remember that family sponsoring us.
That's crazy.
Anywho, so even though we had money, even though we don't remember not knowing where our next meal was coming from, and we had a roof over our heads and clothes on our body, it wasn't because our parents were making enough. It was because of food stamps and Section 8. WIC, we had that when she was a baby, and when we were babies.
Yeah, we were definitely pretty poor.
And I also, like, it got worse.
It got
the older
worse.
we got.
I don't understand why.
But it got to a point where, and obviously, the way the state determines who is below the poverty line is criminal. But I think it got to a point where our dad was making enough and less people were in the house because she went to college. Our oldest sister moved out. Our brother wasn't in the house. And so,
and we weren't 18 anymore.
Right.
Like, I mean, below 18.
Right. And so our dad would get less money from the state. And also, I just remember too, we would always, and this is off the record, nobody come for us, but we would always lie to Section 8 about how many people lived in our house.
Oh, yeah.
Because we couldn't afford a bigger house, but we couldn't have that many people living in that house. And so Section 8 would do routine
checks. Oh my gosh, I remember this.
And we would have to hide beds. We would have to clean up and make it look like only that number of people lived there.
Yeah. That's how you know it's trauma. I literally don't remember that. Like, either I wasn't there for it or I wiped it off my memory.
Growing up in a predominantly white town, like, I knew that we weren't, like, rich or even middle class, especially with the, you know, like, church food banks and things like that, or, like, going to family friends' houses that were bigger. Like, I knew that we weren't super rich, and I think that I also blocked some things out, and I just wanted to be go-lucky and happy. Because it's like, when you're a kid and you're, like, don't know where your next meal is coming from, it's like, what do? You can't really do anything, so it's just like, go to bed. I don't know. I'm sure there's been nights where I just had sleep for dinner, but especially growing up as a picky eater and being poor,
that is hard.
I had many hungry nights. That was low-key my fault, though. But I also feel like ideally it would be nice to be catered to from your parent, so you could obviously eat, but I don't know.
I'm definitely sensing a lot of, like, us blocking certain things out.
Oh, definitely.
And also, I'm really curious about, we talked about it a little bit, about how it affected you guys in high school. And I can start first, but like I said, high school is when I first started to be like, oh my gosh, like, we don't have money. And I was that girl, and I still am that girl, but I will always follow trends in terms of clothing and that kind of thing. But I remember I did a lot of extracurricular activities, and it's hard. It is hard knowing, it was hard knowing that I was the poorest, if not one of the poorest. I had a friend, I would say we shared our financial problems together. Anywho, you know, when you're in extracurricular activities, they do things like bondings and team gatherings, team dinners, whatever. And, like, never being able to offer my house or never having my parents sign up to bring food, like, that was really sucking really hard. And then you also start to feel a vibe from the other teammates that, like, oh, she's not contributing to the team success and XYZ. And I also know that we've talked about this and the difference and how different it was for both of us, but you know, when you're on a team, you have to buy a uniform, or when you go, I did show choir in high school, so I would go to competitions and you'd have to bring money for food, and asking dad for money.
Oh my gosh.
It was like pulling out that man's teeth. And our experience was different because we would say all the time that dad would give me money, but you wouldn't even dare ask him, and he would give me money, but it was after a speech. Like, he would make sure I know that he really has to dig for this money. And for me, I was just such a really stubborn and hard-headed kid, and I really wanted to fit in. And so if I asked him for money, like, I would do everything that I could to get that money so I could get that t-shirt or make sure I have food at a competition.
No, this is really sad. Like, this is depressing.
Sad. We need, like, a disclaimer at the beginning, like, but
are
you done? That's pretty
no, I wasn't done.
Okay,
but it also, ugh, and hanging out with friends and knowing you don't have enough money to buy food.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you have enough money to go to the movie, but if they dare try to go to Culver's, like, I'm
And
gonna be
afterwards-
sipping my water pretending it's
and-
Sprite.
Yeah, and I think the type of friends you had like were very like they were very extroverted, and so y'all, I did not have the mic. Okay. They're very extroverted, so they would do those things where it's like, okay, we're gonna go to the movie, and then we're gonna go to the mall, and then we're gonna go to Culver's, and then we're gonna go to my house.
Oh my god!
I was just like, no one has that kind of money. And also, this was way back when, before inflation. So, like, imagine how much harder it is now.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of times that I've asked my dad for $20 to go to the mall,
No, literally.
and the amount of times he said no. I also had the audacity to ask, but I was definitely in denial that we didn't have money because Dad would pull it out of somewhere.
Yeah. He really did.
And I'd be like, none of my business. I got the
No,
money. Thank you.
none of my business. None of my business.
But one thing that I remember Dad saying all the time was, I live for my kids. I live for you guys. And so whenever I asked him for money, even though he gave me a really big speech about how he doesn't have money and he's going to have to try really hard to get that money, he would always say, like, I will get it somehow because I live for you.
Yeah.
Dang.
He says that all the time, even to me now. He says that all the time.
Dang.
Yeah. So I would like roll my eyes, but then I'd be like, oh, it's really sweet.
Yeah. Also, our
Thanks, Dad.
mom, she kind of worked too later in the years.
Yeah.
And like, I think that they would have given us everything if they could have, but they just didn't have it.
Yeah. It's so true. For me, on the other hand, I'm like 4 years older than Fadua, right? And so I just grew up being super obedient, and even the slightest inconvenience made me feel like the biggest burden. And I couldn't tell you that when I was at that age. It's just something I've reflected back on now, and I understand a little bit better. But when you grow up with African parents, like, they give you speeches for everything, they guilt trip you, like, like, they use extreme language. And so I just, like, it got to me subconsciously. And so I was like, I'm never asking this man for money. I never want him to feel responsible for me. So I, like, became super independent early on, like sophomore year in high school. And looking back, I could have pushed my dad. I could have pushed my mom for the things I was requesting. I was just a scaredy cat. I was just feeling like a burden. And, like, younger me, I wish I got what I wanted because my parents were fine. Even though it was hard, they were fine. And I think I realized even more we were poor when I got to college because, like, I had roommates whose parents were paying rent for them. Like, I didn't ask my parents for a dime in college. It was financial aid and me. That's how it was.
No, seriously.
Like, my friends, like, they also had parents come up to college and help them, like, move into their dorms. Like, I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any college advice. I just got a well wish and was sent on my way.
And that's honestly the reality of being first generation. I know some people have better experiences, but that's really it. And it's so hard because it feels like you guys are both victims in the situation because like you so deserve to be able to do all the extracurriculars and like have all the toys and do all the things you wanted. But at the same time, they were fleeing from like kind of a war-torn country and like trying to do the best they could in a new country, and they only had each other, but they low-key hated each other, and like all this nonsense. Like
it's
just like just a sad situation all around. But
yeah, I 100% agree that if they had the money, they would. Like, they would have provided for us more, and they would have helped us more. But yeah, I'm trying to think about. Yeah, I feel like my main trauma from financial poverty is that hyper independence and, like, constant anxiety for needing to have enough of my savings, enough investments, low debt, like, constantly worrying. And I'm finally working on that anxiety and just letting myself know, like, I'm okay. Like, if I fall, there's gonna be someone who can pick me up. Like, I'm not that alone.
Rob's got you. Surely does.
No.
But I was gonna say, personally, I got a few bands in my high school career up until recently, but I didn't really struggle in high school. I'm sorry. But I really feel for you guys. I really do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you're done. I'm just kidding. Do you have more to say?
No, that's all.
Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about too was about how we have been the bank for mom and dad sometimes or at some points, and
It's
how
so true.
you've been a bank for me.
Yes.
And you've been a bank for me.
Yeah, and what that has done for us.
Yeah.
But we definitely have been in positions where our parents have asked us for money, and it's hard because you don't want to say no because they're your parents, right? But at the same time, if I give you money, I'm gonna be broke, and it's just so tough. And I mean, we've always helped our parents where we could, but it's just weird to be put in a situation where when you're an adult and you're paying for your parents because they don't have money.
I feel like maybe that's a common theme for immigrants, right? Where you are like parentified financially. Because I remember our oldest sister Rahab, when she like started working, like she would give part of her check to like our parents. And when I got my first job, I remember giving some to my parents. It wasn't as often as my oldest sister, but I remember doing that. And even in college, I would give some money. And it is so weird. I don't think a lot of people talk about that if they ever experienced it. But
it's so hard. It makes me think of like, it's such a weird dynamic because like they give up their lives so that you can have a better one, and then they kind of come to you when you've kind of made it. Not that you had much at all, but like in their eyes you kind of did because you were at college and like you had, promises of financial success after. And so it's just crazy that that's the kind of position, and like it's almost like they came here to save themselves because we would get a better chance so that we can help them. And that's 100% their mindset. Like they definitely want to rely on us in the future when we all have a little more back. And even now, and even then. So.
Yeah. And in all honesty, if we had all the money in the world, I think we would give mom and dad everything that they need. But we just aren't in that place financially. And it's also hard when you have emotional trauma from them too. And it's like, you hurt me. Why would I want to provide for you when I'm your child? I know that's something that we've gone through and had to work through. But also, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, going off of your just the immigrant perspective. The other thing too is we're not doctors. Like, yeah, we went to college and we're graduated, but
Baby, she got a family life degree. She got about 10 options for a job, and all below 50,000. Just kidding. That was
immigrant parents are known for pressuring their kids
to be like, 3 things:
to be engineers, doctors, or lawyers.
That's it.
And you know what? I don't blame them.
Yeah, honestly.
If you had told me inflation would hit 2024 or after COVID, I sure would have become a doctor. I sure would have become a dermatologist. Yes, thank you. Who knew?
Yeah. So it's weird because, yes, in their eyes, we should be making the big bucks, but we're not, because realistically,
and it's all because of this freaking fake dream that they were sold that, life in America is so amazing, but it's not just as bad, but it's pretty bad.
The system.
And the government is not so nice to its citizens as, people would think. And that's like a hard truth, and it must be so heartbreaking to realize that like we were struggling there, but we're also struggling here. Like this was supposed to be it for us, and it's not.
And it's hard because a lot of children of immigrant families do go on to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, whatever it is, because they also have that mindset of, I need to be financially free. I need to save my family, save myself. And then they end up losing themselves because that's not what they really wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a doctor until I got to college and I realized what med school was, because all growing up, my mom was like, oh, Fada was going to be a doctor. She's going to be a doctor, like all these things. And so I genuinely thought I wanted to be a doctor and went to, I'm not even going to embarrass myself. But I went to college, and it's not because I'm not smart, because I could have been a doctor if I wanted to, but it's not the path that was meant for me.
Yeah.
It's not what I was passionate about.
Sorry, go ahead.
And so that's just the other thing too. going off of like the American dream that immigrants are sold, and then you get here and you bust your behind for it and you die trying for money.
Literally die trying.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of dives into like the emotional cost of poverty, which we can continue to talk
which
about.
we kind of already talked about. But I was thinking also, like, right, mom and dad pushed us so hard to achieve certain things in college and post college. But I remember getting to college and be like, wait a second, but what's next? Like, what am I supposed to do? I realized that like our parents didn't actually know what college entailed in terms of like what the important things are to do in college. Like, I didn't get an internship when I was like young in my undergrad. I got it like my last year of my undergrad. Like, and I remember being like, I was so behind because I didn't know I was supposed to have an internship, fill up my resume in this way, and this, and that, do research with professors, and then get a master's, right? Like, my parents were like, oh, you're doing school again, because they just didn't understand that I wasn't going to become a therapist just with a bachelor's degree. And so, yeah, that
it's
was
sad
tough.
because a lot of your life just becomes about survival.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have a chance to sit down, it's like, oh, what am I even doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the point of my life? I'm
Yeah.
like sitting here dying, just trying to, have dinner or pay for my room and board and X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Oh, the way life looks so different for people who were impoverished or just had low income, came from a low income family, because the idea of survival, people don't understand what that does to you when you grow up simply trying to survive. When I talk to my therapist, I tell her about how I escaped by doing extracurricular activities, because otherwise my life at home would have been so boring. We didn't do things as a family. There was no pool. There was no, let's go to the rec center as a family. Let's go to the museum. Let's take a trip. It was my parents working day in and day out so that they could provide, and then coming home and being tired and resting, taking care of the house, and on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And
like, I feel like our financial situation and poverty kind of ruined our family and what it could have been. And like, I think that financial stress, it just grows and it creates physical problems when you're stressed and emotional problems, and it literally tears you down as a person. Like, it's so evil. It's so evil.
And not to mention also living in low income neighborhoods and housing, like, I don't even know where to begin.
Oh my gosh, you read a book. Also, I just wanted to say, the gag is, you want to know what the gag is?
Yeah.
We were lucky.
No,
we were
lucky. Privileged poor people.
No, literally.
There's no other way to put that.
And that's just depressing.
God's hand was like this on our family.
Yeah.
Like, that is the only way to describe it, because our parents our dad worked at Walmart, works at Walmart, and was making $14 an hour.
Yeah.
And our mom for a long time wasn't working, and she'd be working in and out as a nanny sometimes, or cleaning lady, or she would work at a meat company. And she is not a citizen of the United States.
Yeah.
And so it was hard for her to.
She's a backbone.
Right. And so it was hard for her to like keep jobs and that kind of thing. But
we were lucky, yeah.
We were lucky.
And the neighborhoods we lived in, like, she was reading a book earlier this year, and it was so cool to kind of learn new things about, the system and how it keeps you in those situations. It's like, it's such a dirty game. Like, it really, poverty is such a low crime game.
Right.
Like, it's messed up.
It's a cycle because, okay, you live in a low income neighborhood, your house maybe has mold in it, or it's just so dirty, so trashed, your neighbors smoke, there's pests and rats, and so already you are in a terrible environment for your health. And then, okay, did we ever see a Sprouts growing up?
Yeah.
Did y'all ever see Whole Foods growing up? No, because they don't put those grocery stores in those neighborhoods or those areas because people don't have the money to shop there.
Yeah.
To buy quality food to survive. Like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about being unprivileged.
And black mold is literally a killer.
Yeah. I learned that like you can tell it's a poor neighborhood because there's Wells Fargo versus other types of banks like Capital One or something else, and that Starbucks, when they're choosing a location to build a new building, they choose rich neighborhoods, rich towns, because that's the people
That's
that
like
can
a
go and
yeah
get coffee every
every
day.
day.
Right.
Crazy.
But
Insane.
all that's around in neighborhoods that we grew up in are liquor stores and
Mhm.
vape shops and gas stations.
Yeah.
So
And-
yeah, it just keeps you in the cycle. Like when that's all you're surrounded by, when that's all you see.
Mhm. You're robbed of like your right to like see the
Yes.
beauty of life and enjoy things. Like
Mhm.
your right to a beautiful view and to enjoy nature. Like all
Yeah.
for what? Like that's it gets me mad.
For sure.
And oh my gosh, I remember a couple of years ago coming to the realization of like, wow, like I didn't know what was possible beyond the four walls of my home. Like just the right to see the opportunities and to know the opportunities was gone, was not existent because my family was we were poor and it was all about survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, but about like the emotional side of it is like I I feel like you take it differently. Like everyone has a different experience, but like I feel like when I was younger, dreaming was all I had. Like all I had was to think about what I could do later. I was no enjoying the now, and I think that's a different facet of um, you know,
Yeah.
poverty. But I also just think of people who um weren't able to dream or didn't think of a future because they had to focus so hard on the now. And like then you get to your future and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I want to do? Like what can I do?"
Yeah.
Like all of it.
For sure.
Like it's just crazy.
Yeah. All that being said, living okay, now that we have like now that we aren't as poor and we live in nicer neighborhoods, I miss those neighborhoods. I miss the beauty supply stores. I miss the kids running around in diapers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is so
Diversity.
weird. Yeah, the diversity, but I feel at home when I see like no low income neighborhoods because that is what my heart remembers.
Yeah.
That sounds so weird to
The
say.
neighborhoods where
Oh.
you don't know if it's fireworks or gunshots.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Yeah.
about.
I think something else we haven't touched on in terms of like our past and our poverty struggle is moving every single year.
That'll do something to you.
I feel like it's the type of trauma that people don't count as trauma, but it is traumatic. It because it's instability, right? And when you have so much instability in your life, like that just messes you up in terms of like feeling safe and feeling like grounded and feeling like you're growing and it's in one like there's just something about staying in one place for a while and being able to rely on certain things. But I went to two elementary schools, three middle schools, and two high schools. Like crazy.
Yeah.
Insane. You had to make new friends. I remember when I went to my second high school, I cried every single day walking into that high school freshman year. And luckily I was able to finish out my high school there and not have to move again. But like it's so traumatic. It's exhausting. And letting go of friends that you really liked and the school that you really liked.
Yeah, I didn't struggle with that, but I can attest to how nice it was to be in one elementary school and then like
Well,
during
here's the
middle
thing
school, I
is
was
we did move, but you stayed in the same school
Yeah.
because we moved in the same area.
Yes. But it was still nice, like especially for those like my school was my escape too, especially when I was younger because you know, you have all your friends and things like that. Like it made me a lot more naive. So that was really nice. And also like I guess up until recently being at the same high school was really nice too. And like I've known all these people since birth. Like that gives you a sense of stability that I didn't have anywhere else in my life, it felt like.
It's so interesting because not only did we move houses, but the neighborhoods were the socioeconomic status of the neighborhoods were different. So like when we first lived in an apartment and then we upgraded to a townhouse and then we upgraded to a house and then we went back down to a townhouse.
And we
And
went back up to a house.
And that meant moving, the schools were different.
Yeah.
So, like, you went to a predominantly Black school, and then you transferred into a predominantly white school, and then back to, and it was just
back and forth, back and forth.
And that comes with code switching, trying to figure out who you are, trying to figure out your friends, where you fit in, all that stuff.
And like all of that, like your experience in school for a while, like it's so integral to character building. And it's like you just don't get to do that.
You don't.
Sad.
That's so true. Yeah. So thank you for joining us in this part 1 of our financial conversation. So this was just about our past, and look out for part 2 where we're going to talk about our present situation with finances and then our future goals with finances as well. But thank you guys. Please subscribe, follow us on Instagram, give this video a like, share, and we're so grateful for you guys. We'll see you
Next time.
Bye.
Bye.